Hey, 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 happy Monday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Monday, March 20th, 2023. This is live stream number 900. Yeehaw. So welcome aboard. It is a milestone stream, that is for sure. My gosh, I didn't even think I would do 500 live shows, let alone 900. But if you're not overly familiar with this show, let me point out, super casual. Certainly not performing any sort of rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. We're just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then normally we will take a look at a tabletop game. We'll take a first look, do an unboxing. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. Not tremendously different, but just a little bit. And we are going to actually be taking a first look at a game which is coming to Kickstarter. That's right, it'll be coming to Kickstarter in April, is what I believe the set month is going to be. I don't know if it's officially April or not, but last I knew, this is coming to Kickstarter in April, and yes, I am talking about Havoc, the combat card game from Havoc Games. So we're going to dive on in. This is jam-packed with all these decks of cards. So all these decks of cards do different things. We have different combatants. So we are going to be taking a peek, and this is mighty hefty. In fact, I even have some decks of cards that don't even fit into this box. This box is so loaded with stuff. So that will be in just a bit. Also, once I wrap up the tabletop gaming news, I will have a short period if you want to do a bit of an AMA with me. You can pretty much ask me anything within reason, and I will provide an answer. We'll spend a little bit of time doing that, and then we will jump on into Havoc. So I should mention, if you are watching live and you're tuning in because you want to be able to check out this first look at Havoc, keep in mind, we tackled the tabletop gaming news first. So it's going to be at least about 40 minutes or so. So if you are watching live, kick up your feet, relax, enjoy yourself. It's Monday. You got a week ahead of you. So just relax. Hopefully you're a subscriber to the channel, because then you can keep yourself occupied while you're hanging out waiting for that first look. Now, of course, if you start watching this 30 minutes or more after the stream has ended, there will be timestamps. So if you are impatient, just got to get to that first look, then you'll be able to click on the timestamp, jump right past the tabletop gaming news. Although we do have some pretty cool news that I'll be talking about tonight. And of course, those timestamps are located in the show notes, or depending on the device you happen to be watching this on, that might be right there in the timeline, right under their nose, or your nose, their nose, your nose, and that little timeline that runs across the video. All right. Should also mention, when you're out watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you're not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And lastly, this is a live stream, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you are a subscriber to the channel and have been for at least 48 hours, you can take part in chat. So if you got a question, a comment, maybe just want to say howdy, chime in. I will do my best to respond. And once again, as I mentioned, we'll do a little bit of an AMA after tonight's news. So first out the gate tonight in chat is the Motor City Madman. Yes, the Madman is with us. Also happens to be one of our chat moderators, and points out that the first live show that they tuned in for was episode 308. Veteran Gravelox is with us, as is Kathy Evans. Chuck Terrell's with us. Mark Dandy, I'm sure he's looking dandy, is in chat as well. So chat is off and running, and a lot of congratulations on episode 900. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll let you in on a little secret. There are actually more than 900 live episodes, live videos on the channel. I think it's 905, because I did do some live streams that weren't considered to be episodes of the show. Or I think there were 2 that I did were kind of test run episodes. Yes, you can only imagine how many disastrous episodes those were. Not really. We have little hiccups in quality from time to time, or little things go wrong during the stream, but not a ton, knock on wood. Let's not start now. Sometimes we have visits from insects, arachnids, what have you. Should also mention, I believe that the spider that was stuck in the monitor has gone off to the great web in the sky. Haven't seen it in a few days. So, sorry about that. Wish I could have got it out of the monitor, but it wasn't going to happen. All right, let's jump on into the news, because making its way into stores in April from Alley Cat Games is Catstronauts. Here's what I know. As the commander of a team of Catstronauts, you'll take on fast-paced missions to visit planets across the solar system and rescue poor, helpless kittens. From the designers of Kitten, Catstronauts is a family speed and sequence game where players race to match their numbered Catstronauts to each of the planet cards in the correct order. With 16 meeples that can be customized with 16 unique cat face stickers, players can build their perfect team of expert Catstronauts. Of course, do want to also mention that Catstronauts comes in the same small tin you've come to love from Kitten. Once again, also from Alley Cat Games. Catstronauts is for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, plays in 10 to 15 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $14.99 when it lands April 5th. Come on, little cat meeples with stickers. I couldn't pass up on that. Looks like this could be fun for the kids. Although here's something strange. You know this is not from a U.S. publisher because it is for ages 8 and up, and it has those little meeples, which you're seeing without stickers at the moment in that shot. If it was here in the U.S., because it's got those small parts, it'd be 14 and up. You know it. You know. 14 and up, because it's a choking hazard. On to the next news piece. Arriving next month from Restoration Games is Unmatched Marvel Teen Spirit. Here's the dope. When it comes to Unmatched, make mine Marvel. Unmatched is the critically acclaimed best-selling game of tactical combat between unlikely opponents. In Teen Spirit, it's time for the young guns to shine. Miss Marvel grows and shrinks to confound her foes. Squirrel Girl unleashes a horde of her fuzzy friends to overwhelm the opponent. Cloak and Dagger work in tandem, stronger together. It's more mayhem than you usually get during a visit to the Navy Pier battle map. Yes, a Chicago area battle map. Also includes a new batch of item tokens that provide fighters with potent effects. As with every Unmatched set, these heroes can face off against fighters from other sets, making it a must-have for experienced players or a great entry point for new ones. And it's all brought to life by the vibrant illustration of Heather Vaughn and Ian O'Toole, with the peerless production quality for which the Unmatched line is known. Unmatched is a highly asymmetrical miniature fighting game for 2 or 4 players. Each hero is represented by a unique deck designed to evoke their style and legend. Tactical movement and no-luck combat resolution create a unique play experience that rewards expertise. Just when you've mastered one set, new heroes arrive to provide all new matchups. Marvel Teen Spirit is a standalone expansion for the Unmatched system. Unmatched Marvel Teen Spirit is for 2 to 3 players, even though they just said that this game system is for 2 to 4 players. I'm sorry, I should say 2 or 4 players. Obviously, whoever takes on Cloak and Dagger, they are both for 1 player. It's for ages 14 and up, plays around 20 to 40 minutes. We'll carry an MSRP of $50 when it arrives. Also, April 5th. Gotta say, I would think, just my opinion here, I would think Cloak and Dagger would make mincemeat out of Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl, especially Squirrel Girl. So, if I remember correctly, didn't Squirrel Girl come from the, was it the Great Lakes Avengers? There was an Avengers comic way back in the day, what, 90s, I think, 90s-ish, which was kind of a gag. It was kind of a joke team. And I could have swore, I thought that's where Squirrel Girl made her initial appearance. I could be absolutely wrong, but pretty sure I thought it was like the Great Lakes Avengers or something along those lines. That was back when they had the West Coast Avengers and East Coast Avengers. All right, let's talk about some role-playing game news, because a new fantasy role-playing game is going to hit stores in Q3 from Polish game company Cosy Coven. I've got the skinny on Touched by the Gods. In Touched by the Gods, players will take the roles of doomed heroes of a long-gone folk. They've been touched by one of the 8 gods and possess special powers now. Thanks to that, they can do what none other can. But the divine energy is eating them from inside out, and at some point, it will become the cause of their demise. A very spectacular one. Touched by the Gods is based on ancient Slavic culture and is set somewhere in Central Europe sometime in the first millennium that could have been. It is absolutely not a historically accurate presentation or reconstruction of those times. Touched by the Gods uses the open license Year Zero engine system that you obviously know from such titles as Alien, Mutant Year Zero, Tales from the Loop, Lawson, and many others. Touched by the Gods is slated for a Q3 2023 release. I'm going to take a guess at the MSRP, probably somewhere around $49.99. Interestingly enough, this was a Kickstarter that did not fund, and that web address is incorrect. The web address is actually Cosy Coven. I pulled that from a news piece, and then after I put that together a little while ago, I just noticed it was incorrect. Before I got down here to do the show, and I did not have time to change these images. So it is Cosy, C-O-S-Y, Coven.com. Currently, Humble Bundle is offering a fantastic money-saving deal on 5th edition Shadowrun from Catalyst Game Labs. Here's the deets on the deal. Become a Shadowrunner. Hide, survive, do what it takes, and you might even thrive inside the cracks in the world of Shadowrun, the legendary tabletop role-playing game that splices fantasy and cyberpunk sci-fi. This mega bundle features everything runners need to make a dangerous living on the streets and in the Matrix, including the core rulebook, guides to armed combat and street magic, and more source books exploring the dystopian sixth world. Right now, you can jump aboard for as little as $1, which is going to score you the core rulebook, or you can go all in and grab all 17 PDFs with a retail value of $402 for a donation of $18 or more. These savings will run through March 30th. Your purchase will benefit the Global Food Banking Network. Interesting. As far as I understand, this is almost everything that Catalyst Game Labs released for the 5th edition of Shadowrun in PDF. You can get your hands on all of it for an $18 donation or more. Don't limit yourself just to $18, but that is the minimum donation to get all 17 PDFs. So $1 and pennies for each one of these PDFs. Now keep in mind, this is 5th edition Shadowrun. It is not the current edition of Shadowrun, which for some people might actually be a good thing, because I do understand that there are quite a few people out there who do not like the 6th edition of Shadowrun. I reviewed the starter set, and honestly, it was a mess. So, truth be told, you can go check that review out. But Shadowrun, I have always felt, was a very, very unique setting, going way back to its FASA days when it first came out. And yes, it's another role-playing game that I had a bunch of releases for, never ran a single adventure. But I had probably 15 books through, I think, the first couple of editions that had arrived. Alrighty then, Shaz and Zorak Zoran 1 have both arrived in chat. Welcome to you. Welcome to episode 900 of the live stream. So let's move on to the final news piece. Now available in PDF for Doctor Who, the role-playing game, is A Stitch in Time. And here's the latest from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. From an alien incursion at a holiday camp in England to a secret after-hours sale at the galaxy's largest department store, the Doctor's adventures can take them to the strangest of places. Sometimes, however, it feels like the TARDIS has a mind of its own, taking the Doctor just where they need to be. Surely these recent adventures cannot be connected Can they? A Stitch in Time provides game masters with a complete series of their own, 10 episodes to play over 10 weeks, each building to an epic finale that connects them all. The 10 adventures provided can be played in any order, except obviously enough the explosive series finale, each offering potential sequels and continuations for an even more expansive campaign. Will the characters find everything they need to save the planet of Nien? The 111-page hardcover, kind of strange, wouldn't you think it'd be 112 pages? Usually don't we have an even number of pages with books? Usually? I don't know. I'm just taking that page count from Drive-Thru RPG because you can pre-order the hardcover, which will include the PDF, for $34.99. I believe it won't come out until Q4, not the PDF, because the PDF is available right now. You can get just the PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG for $17.99. So, of course, if you pre-order the hardcover, you will get the PDF right now. Of course, you have to pre-order that from Cubicle 7 itself, but keep that in mind. So the Madman says they can't wait to receive their pre-order of Doctors and Daleks, which is for 5E. Kevin R. Smith is hanging with us in chat. Good to see you, Kevin. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Kind of zipped right on through. Now, of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And most recently, Joshua Edwards stopped by and made a not small donation, which is truly appreciated. In fact, big tip of the cap to all of you out there who utilize the banner ads and or visit paypal.me. Really, really does help keep thegaminggang.com around, because if you're not overly familiar with the Gaming Gang, you may not know I do not do Kickstarters. I don't have a Patreon. I'm not constantly reaching into people's pockets on a monthly basis or a yearly basis to stick around. So usually it's our advertisers that keep our heads above water, plus Drive-Thru RPG and paypal.me. So there is that. Thank you very much to everybody who helps support the Gaming Gang. So as I mentioned, I am going to be taking a first look at Havoc, the combat card game from Havoc Games, in just a little bit. I did promise that I would do a bit of an AMA for episode 900. If anybody in chat has a question they'd like to toss my way, I'm more than happy to give them an answer within reason. Right? So I will give folks a couple of minutes to get those out there. Once again, I'm not putting a gun to anybody's head to ask me questions or anything, but I did promise that I would do an AMA, because originally what I was going to do is I was going to have my best friend Elliot Miller, who was part of the Gaming Gang when we launched way back in 2010. Boy, oh boy. Feels like it was only yesterday. Seriously, it really does. It seems like it was just, maybe like a year or two ago. And I was going to have him come on and we were going to do another kind of AMA and kind of chat about games from our past and things like that. Because we did that for episode 800 and Elliot had announced, hey, he was going to be returning to the gaming gang. That was about a year ago and nothing. He's been sick. Other people in his house have been sick. He's had COVID like 3 times. So I thought it would be silly to have him come on and, was he going to tell everybody again, oh yeah, I'm coming back. And then, who knows? So Veteran says, not a question, but I want to hear those ghost stories. You may want to save those for Halloween. We don't have to save it for Halloween. I can kind of give you a quick rundown of one of the places I lived at that was haunted. And it was in Chicago, and my parents bought a house. So my brother and I and my parents were moving into the house, and the woman who was selling the house was elderly, and she passed away before my parents closed on the house. So that really doesn't have anything to do with anything, but it was kind of like, Coco B is with us in chat. Good to see you, Coco B. Asking any 1-900 jokes yet? I'm not. Oh, about episode 900? I was like, wait, what do you mean? No 1-900 jokes. So anyway, so we moved in, and there was a younger woman, and the way the house is built is that the lower level is like the main, like, I don't want to say apartment. I mean, it's a house. We had a basement, everything else. And then above, we had like this small apartment that you could rent out. So, or of course, if it was a single family, big enough family, that would have just been, an extension of the rest of the house, right? It was just upstairs, but it had a kitchen and bathroom and all this other stuff. So anyway, it was a relatively younger woman who lived there, and she had been living there for a while, and eventually, when her lease came up for renewal, my parents didn't renew the lease because she had a new guy over like every night. And we had like an enclosed front porch. So my brother and I would be hanging out on the front porch. And at that time, I was probably 10. I was about 10 years old. My brother would have been 12, maybe 13. So my parents just didn't renew her lease. So we had a few people, rent the apartment for a year and whatever. And then we had this woman show up because the apartment was for rent again. And she was kind of strange. She was an older woman. She was kind of odd. And she rented the apartment, and it turned out she had lived like just a couple of blocks away. And we lived in this neighborhood that was sort of like 3 blocks of houses, and then we had like a couple of cemeteries on 2 different sides. We had some factories, but they weren't, like industrial factories. So we had kind of this like secluded area with this little 3-block section of houses. So anyway, she had lived right down the street. So my dad had asked, well, how come you're moving? And she said, well, that her sister had passed away and had started to visit her at the other apartment, so she needed to leave. And I remember my dad had asked, now at this point in time, I think I'm 13, maybe I'm 14, because I was in high school. So probably 14 years old. So that makes My brother was like 16 or 17. So anyway, so she moves. Oh, so my dad asked, well, how do you know it's your sister? You know, being a wise ass. And she said, oh, I can always tell because she wore this particular perfume. So she moves in, and right off the bat, every night, there's this bang, and it wakes everybody up. And we had a dog, Boots, at the time. She was an older dog, super, super mellow, real lazy kind of dog. Sweet dog, though. And she would freak out. I mean, she would jump into bed with like me or my brother or my parents. That was something the dog never did. She never climbed up on furniture or anything like that. And she'd be shaking like a leaf. So we'd get this loud bang, wake everybody up. And then a couple of moments later, we would get another loud bang. And my dad's getting up and he's checking to see, is it the back door? Is the back door of the porch, is that slamming? What's going on here? Can't figure out what it is, and it's every single night. So we also find out years later, weird things were happening that nobody brought up with anybody else. Like my mom worked part-time, and she would come home, and she would get home before my brother and I would get back from school. So she'd usually take a nap in the afternoon. And there were times that she would be in the living room taking a nap on the couch, and she would hear somebody walking around upstairs. And nobody was home. There was nobody there. The woman who lived there was at work. And my mom actually went up a couple of times, knocked on the door. Nobody answered. Then finally, one time she went up there, knocked on the door. No one answered. She unlocked the door with the spare key and poked her head in to see if anybody was there. There was nobody there. Dun, dun, dun. So anyway, so this keeps going on. And my brother had some stuff, weird stuff go on one time when my parents were gone for the weekend. And I was staying at a friend's house, and he was supposed to be staying at another friend's house, but snuck back in with his girlfriend and another friend. And they were hanging out, and some weird stuff happened, and they ended up sleeping in the basement. So anyway, so this just keeps going on. And then we find out from one of our neighbors that the young woman who had lived there when we first moved in had originally been married, and she had been cheating on her husband. And she went off to Europe with her lover, and her husband found out and committed suicide upstairs by shooting himself twice. Dun, dun, dun. So that's where we kind of figured out the two bangs were, what that was. And then finally one day, this woman who lived upstairs, and like I said, she was very bizarre. So like if my brother and I were like hanging out in front of the house, she would be, because you got to keep in mind that this was a Chicago neighborhood. So if you're familiar with Chicago neighborhoods, you have your house, the house next door, house next door. You know, we're not talking the suburbs. We're talking, you know, you have a small backyard and you got neighbors right next to you and things like that. So anyway, our one neighbor is the one who told us about the woman's husband, because we didn't know anything about it. We had no idea. Knew nothing about it. So anyway, so eventually this woman, if she saw somebody like hanging out, the way she was going to walk in, she'd go around the other way. So if she was coming home from work, because she like took a bus and then would walk the block and a half from the bus stop to the house. And if she was coming down the front way and she saw we were there, she'd go around to go in the back door. And if she was coming the back way and there was somebody in the back, she would go around the front. And if there was somebody in the front and the back, she would go away till she could make her way in without really dealing with anybody. So anyway, so one day she comes down, she tells my parents that she's got to move. She's got to break the lease. She has to move because her dead sister is now tracked her down and is now visiting her upstairs. So my dad was like, yeah, fine, whatever. Yeah, he's not going to make a big deal about it. So anyway, so she moves out. So he goes upstairs to check to make sure there's no damage as far as giving her deposit back. And I remember he came downstairs and he told us that the place stunk from perfume. So I don't know if it was her dead sister's perfume, or maybe she had a few screws loose and she was spraying perfume all over the house to kind of cover the smell. Or maybe she remembered telling my dad the way that she knew it was her sister was because of the perfume, and figured she'd spray perfume all over the place to help get her out of the lease. I don't know, but it was very bizarre. Man says, scariest thing that happened in their house were two Furbies in the closet that were turned off started talking in the middle of the night. Man woke up thinking people were in the house. Dun, dun, dun. Double Z1 says, thanks for that, Jeff. I'll call you if I have trouble sleeping tonight. Well, it wasn't, terrifying or anything like that. It wasn't that, scary. So Coco B says, I can relate to that avoidance of living people. I also lived in an apartment one time which mysteriously things would disappear and various different cabinet doors would be open or closed. And it was very strange. That's the only thing that had really happened. But it was actually a very old apartment building, which, amazingly enough, get ready for this, I had actually lived in when I was a little baby. My parents had rented an apartment. I didn't live in the same apartment because it was a pretty big apartment building, but I lived in the same building when I was probably 30-ish, 20. Nah, it's probably about 30 because I had come back from living in New Mexico for a couple of years. So yes, very, very unusual. But I would go to work, come home from work, and there'd be a cabinet open in the kitchen. And the funny thing is, first I thought, what is it? Don't tell me there's rats in here, because I think I've told that story, that I had a rat infestation in an apartment one time. That was not fun. Wasn't ghosts, but it was scarier than ghosts. But because first I thought, oh, is it like rats or something, mice? Because it's an old building, right? But the thing was, it would be like cabinets that were not off of the floor. They were like overhead cabinets. Well, they were actually cabinets all over the place, but it was really, really bizarre. And I would have keys disappear and then reappear. A lot of times things would disappear and then I'd search all over to try to find them. And then I would find them on top of the refrigerator, which I didn't put things on top of the refrigerator. So there were a couple of times I couldn't find my keys. I was looking all over the place, and then I glanced, and I was like, they were sitting on top of the fridge. I'm like, how did that happen? But that was it. It was just like poltergeist kind of stuff. But yes, I am fascinated by ghosts. I think they exist, which strangely enough is kind of bizarre because, I do not have any religious beliefs or anything like that. But it is possible that we have energy that remains, especially if you have some sort of traumatic experience, I guess. Roger Prudhomme has joined us, so they're going to have to listen back to the scary stories. Well, I don't know. I don't know how scary the story was, but it was bizarre. It was weird. And that whole every night, the two bangs, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning that it would happen. It was same time every night. So, you know, pretty strange. In fact, and it was much stranger once my brother and my mom and I had discussed stuff years later, not having mentioned it before, and we're like, wow, really? That happened? Because we always thought it was weird, but we, didn't like compare notes, I guess. Alrighty then. So there you go, a little AMA for you. So we are going to jump on in to take a first look at Havoc, the combat card game, in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Pleasure, Falstaff size, the most refreshing beer a thirsty man can pour, yet light enough to leave room for more.
Man-sized pleasure, every premium quality Falstaff you pour. Falstaff always takes extra care to make the finest beer possible, even to cascading every brew over the Falstaff chilling tower, instantly icing down each brew to protect that famous premium quality taste every step of the way, till it's safely capped in and you're ready to enjoy it. Satisfying to your man-sized thirst, light enough to leave room for more.
For man-sized pleasure, this is the one. Premium quality Falstaff beer.
Wilkins decaffeinated coffee is best at any price.
Oh, you just say that because...
Because what?
Because it's true.
Creepy crawlers, creepy crawlers, creepy crawlers.
Now, you can make all kinds of lovely things like these with Mattel's wonderful Thing Maker. It makes creepy crawlers, spiders, lizards, snakes, dragonflies. Make them yourself with this nice plastic goop. Choose a mold, pour in the goop, heat it, and presto changeo, you've got bugs. Squiggly, squirty bugs. They feel so soft and natural. You get 4 different colors of goop and special paints. Make charming lizard pins or spider rings. You can collect them or spread them around. After all, they're fun for the entire family. Get Mattel's new Thing Maker with creepy crawlers. You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Nothing goes together like archery and alcohol. Yes. All right, grab me a couple of Falstaffs and let's go out and shoot at targets. Yes. And yes, Wonkins lived. He was threatened with violence, but he lived. And I noticed the Madman points out that they had creepy crawlers when he was a kid. So did we. That's why I ran across that commercial and I was like, oh, I got to share that because we owned the Thing Maker and the goop the plastic goop to make the creepy crawlies. And I'll never forget, the spider's legs would always break off when you were trying to take them out of the mold. And so did the wings on the dragonfly. So, Kevin points out, yes, I always wondered why people play darts at bars. I did. I was captain of a dart team. Although ours were plastic tipped, they were not the steel tipped. But yes, we played lots of darts at bars and hustled a good amount of money for people playing darts. I guess I wouldn't say hustled. We won fair and square. We didn't pretend that we weren't any good. So Roger asked if I still have the creepy crawler in the monitor. No, I had mentioned earlier, I think it has gone to the great web in the sky because I have not seen it. That was just creepy. So Kevin says, love the original name, Thing Maker. Should mention that Kathy Evans had pointed out that the last house they lived in had a couple of friendly spirits. Yes, very nice. I actually had a neighbor, same house I was talking about. They lived down the street. They swore that the house was haunted and that the ghost used to warn their grandmother of impending trouble. So I guess there was one night the spirit told the grandmother that they needed to get everybody had to be out of the house that night. They couldn't be in the house. And there was a gas explosion. Now, it didn't blow up the entire house, but it would have injured some folks if they had been there. So really, really unusual. All righty then. So tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be taking a look at a game that is coming to Kickstarter next month. We're going to dive on into Havoc, the combat card game from Havoc Games. It's designed by Jason Cawley with art provided by Megvin Jovari and Andre Steff. And I believe this is a two-player game. So let's swing on over to the other camera because we're going to start taking a peek here. First of all, this is a pretty big box. Pretty hefty box as well. So I took a peek inside because it wasn't shrink wrapped. This is a prototype too, so please keep that in mind. And I open it up and it's just packed with stuff. And then I've also got more decks. And I've got some mats we're going to take a peek at too. Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Mark Antony in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Havoc is a cards and dice game replicating realistic medieval combat. Set in the era of swords and shields, or I guess we could say swords and boards, as a lot of people like to refer to it, spears and axes. Players take on the role of knights, barbarians, or other fighters locked in deadly hand-to-hand combat. So I believe there's historical fighters, and then there are also fantasy fighters. So the madman says, gladiators, Romans, and knights, oh my! Players choose weapons and armor, decide their fighting style, then build decks using Havoc's combat action cards. After shuffling their decks and drawing their hands, players decide how to win their fight. Attack, defend, or pause, and let the armor take it. So it's telling us what comes in the box. So it says it's for 2 to 5 players, plays in 30 minutes to 2 hours. I would think that must be some sort of a tournament that would be taking 2 hours. So let's open this up. I'm going to get these out of the way for a moment. We're going to see what's inside. Just wait. I'm telling you, there are loads and loads of decks in here. Just wait. All right. So, got to point out the box is nice and sturdy that they sent me. So it looks as if, looks like we've got a couple of dual-sided, look like kind of like playboards. So we'll take a closer look. Just going to take this on out. Now, was I kidding when I said it's filled with all these decks? And there's decks under some of the decks. So I'm going to take all of these out, and I think these are empty. They're just here as space, kind of spacers almost. So we've got a deck here that says combatants, attacks, more attacks, defenses, pause cards, weapon cards, armor cards, advanced defenses. We've got some 10-sided dice. We've got advanced attacks, wound cards, foe cards, we have a quick start guide, a handbook, a reference book, another die. I think there's another die underneath. Oh no, it's tokens. And we have a reference book. So as you can see, there's a lot in this box. So it looks like we've got so this is fatigue and this is body. So I guess we're tracking fatigue and wounds effectively. So that looks like that's what these are. So we got 1, 2, 5, 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 5 is what it looks like our denominations are here. So we've got a few little punch boards. Relatively thick though. Pretty good. And we've got 4 10-sided dice in red and white. These are cut dice. Actually, I gotta say, these are pretty nice polyhedrals. Hey, speaking of dice, I guess I should probably mention this. If you haven't checked out the video that I uploaded earlier today, I actually take a peek at some Misfit dice that are available from Fanroll. I take a look at a package of mini, mystery, and metal dice. And I gotta say, they're actually really nice dice. And I guess they're considered misfits because some of them have minor flaws to them that do not affect the dice rolling, but does affect the look of them. But not all of them. I guess some of them are just discontinued dice, I should say. So let's take a look at kind of battle board here. So it looks like this is where you're going to place various different cards. So you've got combatant, armor, weapons, conditions, your deck, your hand, and your action, as well as discards. So we have the knight there. We have a female fighter. Got what looks like a female barbarian. And I'll take a guess we have a male barbarian. Yep. So those are the little battle boards. Let's take a look at the quick start. Dive into the quick start. And funny enough, looks like the quick start is the same, if not more, pages than the rule book. All right. Welcome to Havoc, the combat card game. Havoc is a fast-paced cards and dice game of deadly hand-to-hand combat. Set in the era of swords and shields, spears and axes, players take on the role of knights, barbarians, and other fighters locked in deadly combat Players win when they kill or incapacitate their opponent. It says in Havoc, cards are used to show is and does, what a combatant is and what a combatant does during the fight. Combat action cards show the actions each combatant takes, like slashing with a sword, parrying with a shield, dodging, or just standing still. Combat action cards are used more than any other card and make up about half the cards. Other cards show the type of fighter the player controls, their class, their weapons, armor, fighting prowess, and special combat abilities. Cards are also used to show each fighter's movement, tactics during the fight, as well as details about wounds and bash. Colored chits track the damage a player's fighter takes, body, and how long they can fight, fatigue. Players use two 10-sided dice, a red die and a white die, added together to determine success or failure of actions, such as attacking with a weapon, recovering from a wound, or standing up from a bash. So, Madman asks, do the battle boards feel like they'll hold up? Got to keep in mind, this is all prototype stuff. So, this is thick cardstock, but it's not something that I would think you'd be, playing, if you played once a week for a year. I don't know about this holding up. But once again, as I mentioned, this is simply prototype. So it is coming to Kickstarter in April. And we do have a couple of mats. We'll take a look at those in just a little bit. The mats, I can tell, are far bigger than the little paper mats that we were taking a look at. So we're going to have our key rules here. So we've got our combatants. It says players build 25 card decks of combat action cards. A fighter's 25 card deck shows the combat actions, attacks, defenses, and pauses at their disposal, and is based on 4 factors: class, prowess, weapon, and shield, if any. Each Havoc class receives 4 free combat actions described on the class card. Higher prowess can provide not only more combat actions, but more advanced combat actions that deliver higher chances of success. Each weapon card specifies, the number and type of combat actions a fighter gets for using that weapon. Okay. To start fighting, players shuffle their 25 card decks and then draw their hand of 6 to 8 combat action cards from the top of their decks. A fighter's hand size depends on their class and prowess level, with most fighting class combatants having a normal hand size of 7 cards. Starting at prowess level 6, fighters enjoy 1 extra card in their hand. Maximum hand size is 8 cards. Says players play their full hand of 6 to 8 combat action cards in a combat round. A combat round consists of 6 impulses, and 1 impulse equals 1 card play by each player. Any cards left over after the 6 card plays are discarded. So Kevin asks, is this the final art? I believe it is. So, to be completely honest, the folks over at Havoc Games tried to kickstart this, I want to say it was a couple of years ago, and they actually advertised on the Gaming Gang. They had banner ads, but I had not had an opportunity to actually take a look at the game, and the Kickstarter did not fund. So they've tweaked some things, and it is making a return to Kickstarter. So we have a missile phase, first impulse. This looks like this could be rather detailed. So we have a combat example. So it's a Roman legionnaire versus a Gallic spearman. Says both combatants are trained warriors, prowess 3, with 8 body and 4 fatigue. Using the archetype cards as a guide, players select weapons and armor. So here's the Legionnaire. Let's try to get that out of there so it's not in shadow. Here's our Spearman. So the Gaelic Spearman adjusts his deck by replacing his allotted 2 shield parry defenses with 2 additional dodge defenses. The dodges will help restore the distance to long if the Legionnaire gets closer. Well, he is a Spearman, so he's going to want to keep him further back. So here it's showing the breakdown of the decks. So it looks as if the Roman Legionnaire has some slash, thrust, shield parry, and pause cards, which I will take a guess. The pause cards probably give you back fatigue. That you only have so much fatigue and you'll be spending it for each of your combat actions you take. Flaming Huron is with us in chat saying, of course, they're late for live stream 900. Flaming Huron also happens to be one of our chat moderators. I don't know if Sarah D is lurking in chat tonight or if Mr. Eddie T happens to be lurking as well. They are our other 2 chat moderators. So if you're hanging out, welcome, welcome. So we have determining initiative. So this is going to be based on, looks like it's based on the weapon length. So the Spearman has a length of 9. The Roman Legionnaire has a short sword, has length 3. So it looks like we have different initiative states. I got to say, this is looking pretty interesting. I don't know about you out there in chat, gang, but to me, this is looking pretty cool. And I know it has absolutely nothing to do with the what were they? Iron Crown? Wasn't it Iron Crown who did the books? Ace of Aces. I don't know how many of you out there watching remember Ace of Aces, the World War I fighter game, which utilized books, which we played the hell out of when I was in high school. We played so much that the books started falling apart. That's how much we played that. And then there were also some like fantasy combat books where essentially you'd make a move, your opponent would make a move, and you would compare the page numbers of those moves, and you'd look it up and then look at your move, and it would take it to like it was like your, you know, kind of a POV of what you were seeing. It was actually pretty cool. And I know this is nothing like it, but for some reason that popped in my head. So Kevin says, was it the same Iron Crown that made Rollmaster? For some strange reason, I think it was. But then again, I could be just misremembering it completely. Right, so we have another combat example. Roman Legionnaire against a Celtic Maul Berserker. Huh. I might be bringing this with me to GaryCon because Ellie and I have a good amount of downtime. Most of the days we're there. So it's sort of like, I don't know why it ended up like this, but we sort of have like gaming events that are in the morning and then one like in the evening. And then the afternoon's like wide open. So I figured I could, you know, maybe do some interviews. I know we've got a few exhibitors there, and also we'll play our own, stuff. So I'm bringing Votes for Women. That's one that we're going to play. I'll probably be bringing 1960. I'm going to bring this as well. So Flaming Heron says, there's a game I really like. Love me some Roll Master. Arms Law, Claw Law, Spell Law. I love the detail that would add to combat. I just wasn't super thrilled with all that additional crunch. And Sarah D is always in the shadows. Good to see you, Sarah. Okay, so let's take a look at the handbook. Kind of zip through this a little bit. So it looks like this is the actual rule book. So cards first, then dice. So it says overview. Number 1, cards first, then dice. So we got different classes, which is a measure of each combatant's training, skill, and military style, used to determine hand size, free actions, weapon use, and armor use. It says Havoc uses 5 classes: Knight, Barbarian, Warrior, Rogue, and Citizen. Now, I think there are some fantasy characters in here as well, because I was going to say, we keep seeing an orc. So here it says, as far as body, so we've got a wolf or a giant spider would have a body of 4, person would have 8, a bear 12, a bull or a troll 20, greater drake 80, a horse 16, a tough person 10, and then our fatigue shows a normal person 4, a tough person 5. We get a discussion about building decks and drawing hands. The 25 card deck. So we know we've got 6 cards that get played. So are we just going to go through? No, I guess we would reshuffle the decks, would be my guess, because I thought I saw we go through like 6 rounds. I might be wrong. It would be kind of interesting if it was you just went through the deck once. So Roger says they miss playing Middle-earth role-playing. I had all that. Once again, another game that I had all the releases for. Anybody want to take a guess how many sessions of Middle-earth role-playing I ran? I'm sure somebody out there is going to get it on the first guess. So there's some discussion of the new edition of Rollmaster. They reached out to me as far as reviewing it, and when it gets published, when the physical book gets published, they're going to send me a copy. So Kevin says 0. Correct. That is correct. Okay, so this is our reference book. So it's showing us our combatant cards, weapon cards, armor cards, combat actions and tactics, wound, bash, and other conditions, melee cards, archetype and foe cards. Talking about the 25 card deck again and our hands. So we've got our historical archetypes. Egyptian levy spearman, Egyptian noble charioteer, Hittite charioteer, Hittite champion, Hittite levy spearman, Judean shepherd. Jeez, they gotta fight you off with the crook. Disavow 92's been hanging with us in chat. I believe he swung in a bit earlier. I missed saying hello. Judean rebel, Eastern shepherd, Assyrian spearman, Assyrian champion, Nubian spearman. So we have early ancients, Hellenic, Roman, Middle Ages, High Middle Ages, Renaissance. Come on, where's the fantasy? It is not here. That's pretty wild. Well, just looking at what we've got here, we know this is just wide open, ready to be different fantasy characters. Because for one, they even show us like, oh, how many points of body would a troll have? So it looks like we've got a bit of a player aid here. Talking about deck construction, combatant construction, to hit procedure, damage procedure, die roll chances, sequence of play. Yeah, okay, so there are 6 impulses in the round. So I guess it doesn't look like there's a limit on the combat rounds. So Kevin says there are worse fates than forever running games. So Flaming Heron says, no shame there, Jeff. I buy plenty of RPGs, never run them. Tend to incorporate them into my other games, but if I ran every game I bought, I'd be forever running games. Yes. Yeah, a lot of times I just would pick stuff up because I had money burning a hole in my pocket. Of course, this is way back in the day. And I would use a lot of it just for inspiration, things like that. So these are advanced. Here's combatants. Here we got foe cards, wounds, defenses, 2 boxes of attack cards. So let's take a look at our combatants here. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's some cards in here that are essentially maybe part of stretch goals. That's a possibility here. So the Madman says they're forever running games and still can't get through all the content that they own. Makes for some good reading and ideas. I completely agree. All right, so I'm just taking a look here. Got a bunch of stuff that is different techniques in that. Okay, so we've got tactic cards. These are player aid cards. And this is kind of giving us a breakdown like we saw with how to build a combatant, how to put together your deck. That's what all of these cards are here. Initiative, longest weapon, short. So I think we actually leave these out. So like distance is long, out of reach, short, contact, initiative state, fastest fighter, highest roll, longest weapon, shortest weapon. And the initiative card, whoever has the initiative, I guess, gets to hold this. Then these are abilities. Okay, so these are all abilities here. So we have things like hook technique. Once per combat round, you play any attack with any axe, warhammer, or halberd, and your opponent played BP, SP, or HP. Discard your attack card. If you roll 11 or higher, your opponent must pause next impulse. Your attack and your opponent's defense prowess bonuses modify this rule, and showing dexterity 13 or higher. We've got recover, overhead blow. And it looks like, I think this is the requirement. So in order to have tireless, you must have constitution of 13 or higher. All your strength. Once per fight. You hit your opponent for normal damage, do additional red damage. All right, so those are the some tactics. Here's the close. Stand ground. Keep distance. Looks like there is quite a bit going on with this game. All right, so here we've got combatants. So we've got a knight, a couple of knights, a couple of barbarians, a couple of warriors, a couple of rogues, a couple of citizens. All right, so now we had the males. It looks like we've got female, one of each. So then we have prowess cards. Weak, untrained. I thought maybe they'd be dual-sided. So we had one, we have two. So then we have trained, veteran, with a prowess of 4, superior prowess of 5, expert prowess of 6. What do we have? Legend, heroic, prowess 7, mighty is 8, great fighter is prowess 9, and a master is a prowess 10. And as we see, we get bonuses to our rolls. Also notice when we're rolling for damage, the lower prowess don't get anything, whereas the higher prowess are adding, looks like they're adding a damage roll, but it looks like we get +4 to hit, -4 to defense, +4 attack cards, +3 defense cards, +1 to your hand size. And you can take bonus combat action cards, which are from Master. Quantum Phase Dragon is hanging out. Welcome aboard. Interesting. So these are the combatants. Let's take a look at the foes. Oh, so these are these are a lot of the historical. Oh yeah, I was gonna say we've got some fantasy characters in here. So we've got Assyrian Champion, Hoplite Hero, Thracian Gladiator, Gaelic Hero, Pole Axe Knight. Oh, and it looks like it gives you a breakdown of what deck they get to use, how to build their deck. That's kind of cool. I was going to say, I know we've got some fantasy because there's a gargoyle. And I know I saw a goblin. Oh, there's an angel. Lord Pestis. There you go, goblin minion. Dwarf shield mate. Cool. So looks like these are all unique. Roman centurion. Yeah, there are no duplicates so far. Axe berserker. Mameluke. Cavalryman. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. We've got a Knoll. And you figure, as I mentioned before, wouldn't be too difficult to come up with, a lot of different monsters and things like that. And, have decks for those. Got a mounted knight, Hun horseman, French duelist, a knight of Argyle. So I believe what we're looking at here is, for an example, we've got the wolf. So I think the wolf's prowess is 2. It's got a body of 4, and it's got fatigue of 3. And it's telling us what its weapon is. Its armor has none, abilities none. So it gets 4 thrust, which is its bite, 6 dodge, and 15 paws, I believe. It says only dangerous in packs. Oh, there you go. Greater Drake. Got a Dwarf Lord. Very nice. Okay, so these are the foes. So we've got our combatants. The combatants have the classes. And then the foes simply have a single card. All right, come on. So these are our attack cards. And of course, we're going to have a lot of multiples. So we've got slash, cut, great blow. I do notice we have some different artwork on the different cards. So as you can see, we've got 2 slashes here, but we do have some different art for that. We have 2 pieces of art for cut. So it looks like these are all cut, great blow, and slash are in this deck. Quantum Phase Dragon, is this a battle game like Pokemon? Well, it's certainly not like Pokemon. It is more kind of a mano-a-mano combat game. Okay, so here we've got our thrust cards, smash, ferocious blow. So it looks like your thrust card is -1 to hit, but it adds +1 to the red die and no change in damage. And it's for spears and blades. Ferocious blow gives you +2 to hit, +1 to the red die. And looks like that's a 1 there in the corner. So thrust, smash, and ferocious blow are these attack cards here. So this is what you'd be building your 25 card deck out of. So Kevin points out it's a deck building game, not a CCG based around ancient medieval combat. Yep, that's pretty much what we're looking at. Although the actual building of the deck takes place before you start playing. Whereas in many deck building games, you're building your deck as you play. All right, so those are attacks. Here are defenses. So we've got a halved parry, dodge, shield parry, blade parry. Once again, it looks like we've got a couple of pieces of artwork for each of these moves. So it looks like shield parry, blade parry, half parry, dodge. Those are our defense cards. But remember, we have advanced attacks and we have advanced defense as well. So let's take a look. The advanced attacks. So Kevin says, so no draft element? No, you're actually just, it looks like you've got plenty of cards for the players to build their decks out of. So with the faux cards, it looked like it was telling you how to build a specific deck for them. With the combatants, you're actually building your deck however you want to do it. There's a, where was it? On the back of this? Nope, it's going to be the last one. Kind of a walkthrough of the combatant construction as well as your deck construction. So like I said, I am definitely going to bring this with. I'm going to put it in the car for GaryCon and play it a bit with Elliot, who's hanging out with me. So we've got Deep Slash, Hard Cut, Heavy Smash, Artful Thrust, Master Slash. I would assume we're going to have fewer of each card, but I think we're going to have quite a few more maneuvers. So we have a Master Thrust, Master Cut, Ferocious Great Blow. Nice. Master Slash. Okay, so those are our advanced attacks, which are only available to certain characters of a certain prowess level. Here we've got advanced defenses, angled shield parry, fencer's blade parry, angled heft parry. That's kind of cool. Master blade parry, master dodge, angled heft parry. So various different advanced defensive moves here. Master shield parry. So for an example here, it's showing prowess has to be 8 or higher, and you have to have a shield to utilize this. So Flaming Head said, Master Slash sounds like Rocker's name. Yes, I almost went there. I almost went Guns N' Roses there, and I was like, nah. Okay, so here's the wounds. So we got wounds and weapons. Here we have pause cards. I think they're all going to be the same. I think these are just all going to be pauses. Might have different artwork, but yeah, actually quite a lot of different artwork, but they're all just the same. No action taken. If attacked, defend with armor and passive shield only. So they're all the same card, but with quite a bit of different artwork. So that's cool. So we have bash cards. Still need to take a look at the wound cards. Can I just put the wound card someplace? I'll have to take a peek. All right. So, oh, I'm sorry. They're both. So I'm like, wait a second. I swear I just saw a wound deck. It's bash cards and the wound deck. So we have injury condition cards. So we've got the bash cards, and then we have wound conditions here. So we have injuries and wounds. Okay. So I would take a guess that if when you take a wound, you're going to draw a random card from this wound condition. And then if you happen to get to a point where you need to take an injury, you're going to randomly draw one of these. So moderate chest wound, severe belly wound, severe chest wound, severe leg wound, slight bleeding, moderate arm wound, battered, severe neck wound, ouch, wound 22. Ooh, that sounds pretty bad. And you get an injury condition, bleeding. So maybe you're not randomly selecting it. Maybe you have to look through these cards to get the injury condition. Nice. So it looks as if you could have critical hits in this game as opposed to just whittling down your opponent with their body points. And then we got bash cards. Off balance, staggered, reeling, dazed, stunned, driven to a knee. So this looks like, I would take a guess, this is another deck of cards that you would possibly have to draw from. Laid out. I think that's probably the worst. So discard your hand. +2 to be hit. Cannot attack, I should say. -1 hand size. Move action is stand. I don't know, chat, what do you think? How does this look so far? Are you interested? Because I know I am, but, you know, that's me. You might be sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, look at all these cards. Here's the weapons. And then I think our other decks are all characters. They're like more foes and stuff. So we got dagger, short sword. So it'll tell us what actions we can use. So I'm going to take a guess. With the short sword here, it shows actions. So I think it's slash, thrust, and blade parry would be my guess, is what those represent there. Warhammer, javelin, a folk, great sword of war. Oh, is this going to be getting into the Gary Gygax level of pole arms? The flail. What I always found interesting, and in chat, let me know, be honest. I always found it very interesting how most people do not know the difference between, and I'm talking most gamers, right? Most people who play like fantasy role-playing games do not know the difference between a mace, a warhammer, a flail, and a morning star. So we've got large bite, tusk, horns, antlers, medium claws. This is kind of cool. Large claws. Yeah, for the dragon. Tail swipe. So Kevin said I read his mind. As far as the Gary Gygax level of pole arms. So Flaming Heron says, difference between a flail and a morning star. Fire breath. Thrown javelins. That's cool. So some weapons that you would expect to have maybe some multiple copies of, we do. And then some of like the monsters in that, or like nature, like natural animals and stuff, only have one. So Batman says, I'm kind of flailing here. Okay, so Kevin said this looks cool, but it might be too pricey. Especially since they don't have a regular board and card gaming group. I gotta be honest, I have absolutely no idea what we're looking at as far as the pledge levels. I will tell you that when this was up on Kickstarter previously, I was surprised at how pricey it was. Now, I have been informed that a big part of that was the production and shipping cost, which is, at that point in time, was pretty outrageous. And my contact with Havoc Games has pointed out that it's looking more like it'll be a smaller pledge level to get on board than it was originally. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what that pledge level was. Okay, so it looks like these just look like random cards. Some random extra cards in here. So we've got some classes, we've got some foes, we've got some parries, we've got pause cards, we have some injuries, some wound cards, we've got some dazed or bash cards, I should say. I wonder if this is supposed to be kind of it says dual deck gladiators. So it looks as if this is just for maybe a quick start, right? It says step into the arena, try Havoc, and let slip the dogs of war. I bet you that's what this is. I bet you this is a special deck to introduce people to the game with a couple of characters, a couple of classes, I guess I'll say, and some foes. So Flaming Heron says they're a big aficionado of medieval weapons, so they actually learned the difference between those four weapons long ago. So Kevin says, I don't know about the Warhammer, but I know a mace, flail, and Morningstar are often confused. Yes. I would think out of those three weapons, I would think the Morningstar would be the hardest to utilize. All right, so this is, it's another dual pack, but this is with Romans. Okay. So we got Roman Centurion, Legionnaire, Maul Berserker, Gaelic Spearman. We've got Barbarian, Warrior. We've got some Prowess cards. So these are Prowess 3 and 4. Yep. Yeah, so just like the other deck we had. So this is kind of a two-player. Just get used to the game sort of deck. Double Z1 is calling it a night. All right, excellent. Thank you very much for hanging out. This has been an extra long episode 900. So this is melee cards, and then this is a dual deck knights. So we've already seen the knights. I don't even need to open this up. So that is, once again, for 2 players. What are the melee cards? So it looks like we've got some armor. Oh, there we go. And on the back it says armor cards. So we've got melee cards and armor cards. So here we got all the different armor. Nice. All has unique art. There are a few that are duplicates, but there's quite a lot in here. There you go, polearm. Polearm is considered armor? I guess. So then we've got fear condition, poison condition, curse conditions, shadow revenge, misfortune, mild poisoning, and frightened. Nice. Very cool. I am very much looking forward to checking this out. Of course, I will have, it's not going to be a review. But if you know the gaming gang and you know how I operate, you're going to find a preview video where I will share my thoughts about the game. So, whoops, putting these, no, this is the bottom. So keep that in mind, because that will be coming prior to the Kickstarter launching. Just trying to fit everything in here. Now, I know I had some extra decks that I'm actually trying to sneak in here, and it looks like I can pull it off for the most part. Maybe not. Okay, I came close. So there is only one final thing to take a look at, and it is the mats. So there are a couple of mats that Havoc Games sent along for me. So remember, we were looking at those like player mats, and this is far larger, and of course this is made out of mouse pad material. Not a bad thickness. I would probably hope that the thickness would be a little more than this with the final product. Should hold up pretty well though. So there you have it. This is how you would lay it out. This must be where you're going to have your fatigue and your wounds. And then, of course, your class card's going to go there. Conditions, discard, current action, your deck, your armor, your weapons. Got plenty of room for wounds and things like that. So we have the knight. And then we have the barbarian. Sweet. And, of course, a big thank you to the fine folks over at Havoc Games for sending all of this along. So, Flaming Heron is asking, is this exactly what the Kickstarter offers? I don't know yet. To be very, very honest with you, I have no idea. Because I have not seen the Kickstarter yet. The Kickstarter is slated for April, but to my understanding, I think it's mid-April. So I don't know. What you could do to get a better feel is go to Kickstarter and do a search for Havoc, the combat card game, and take a look at the previous Kickstarter that did not fund to get probably maybe a better feel for what's going to be offered. And once again, as I mentioned, I heard the pricing is going to be lower. So that is good news as well. So that is a look at Havoc, the combat card game from Havoc Games. And as I mentioned, I will have a Kickstarter preview with some in-depth thoughts about Havoc in the near future. So hopefully you enjoyed this supersized episode 900 of the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Of course, I guess I should say live stream number 900 because the live stream wasn't always called the Gaming Gang Dispatch. At one point, it was called the Daily Dope. And that's when I was doing Monday through Friday. Yeah. I honestly don't miss those days. Not necessarily because of the 5 shows a week. That was all right. It was just the equipment was just so primitive. The videos look awful, in my opinion. Sound isn't good. Not that the sound's all that great now, but one of these days I'll properly EQ this thing. One day, maybe live stream 1800. I'll have it down pat. All right, everybody who tuned in tonight, thank you very much. Always appreciate it. And as the Madman had pointed out, he's been hanging around for nearly 600 live streams. And I know there are quite a few of you hanging out in chat who have been with the Dispatch for quite a long time. Really do appreciate you taking time out to hang out with us and take a look at some tabletop gaming goodness. Alrighty, so of course, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ding that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. It'll also inform you when I share other original videos, such as my upcoming review of Pathfinder, They Watched the Stars, the second chapter in the 3-part 8 Walkers Adventure Path. You'll see this review will be up tomorrow. Also, you can check out my look at the Misfit Dice from Fanroll, which I just shared that video today. So Kevin says, I can't remember if they started in the 600s or the 700s, but congratulations on episode 900. So Madman says they will not be around next week. Of course, keep in mind, remember, this is the only show, this is the only episode of the Dispatch this week, because I will be at GaryCon. I'll be up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, starting Wednesday afternoon. So I'm heading up there a day ahead of time. I can pick up my pass, and I think they're having like a pre-con get-together. So we shall see. I have not been up in Lake Geneva in decades. So this will be very, very interesting. I also got to take a look to see if the Dungeon Museum is open, because if it is, I am certainly going to go check that out. Alrighty then. Anyway, should also mention, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back next Monday. We will probably be diving on into Rivers of London from Chaosium Inc. I don't have the book within reach, unfortunately. But everybody enjoy the rest of the week. Have a great weekend. And enjoy the rest of the morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods as you watch this. And until I see you next week, here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. Oh, hey, you're still here. That's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.